Today is the last Sunday for our 4-series talk on answered prayer. So, this is taken from a spiritual novel by Reverends August Gold and Joel Fontino. And so we've been basing all of these talks on what are the secrets of answered prayer. They're not really secrets to us, but it's good to be reminded. The first one is, does anybody remember? Oh, yes, they paid attention. Yes, prayer is answered when it moves through you. The second answer to prayer. Listen. Prayer is answered when you listen. The third answer is when you welcome everything. At the end of the novel, the main character, Joseph, writes a fourth secret, and he writes it down in the prayer diary and puts it back in the prayer chest that we've been talking about. Is the name of the book, the prayer chest. So this was his final lines of the book. Joseph could not know that with the original 3 secrets, the prayer chest would have saved dozens of lives. But with the 4th secret that he added, the prayer chest could save thousands of lives. So obviously that leaves an opening either for a sequel, or, as we are doing, we've written our own sequel. I've heard from a number of people that have sent me what they think that 4th secret is. So I've integrated that into the talk, and I want to offer my deepest thanks to those who sent it to me. So here they are. Several of you suggested that gratitude is the 4th secret, particularly being grateful for the deep knowing that has occurred as a result of circumstances. 2, you also suggested know that it is what God wants for you, and be patient and prepared. Another said you must follow with conviction. And another, pray and maintain hope. And then the 4th secret is to pray and surrender. And these are all great ideas, each and every one of them. And one of them, any one of them, could be the 4th secret. So it will be interesting to see if another novel comes out with one. But this morning, I want to pose yet another idea. I want to propose the idea of prayer as the 4th secret of answered prayer. And as spiritual people, we're going to understand this. We are very familiar, most of us, with the idea of release. We have in our prayer work, we have a 5-step process. For everyone that's been in foundations, you know it. And the last of those 5, the first is recognition, knowing that there is one power. The second is unification. We are all unified with that power. The third is, what is it? Realization. That's what we claim our good, what we're praying for, okay? And the 4th is thanksgiving. But the 5th one is the action step. It's release. We let it go and we don't think of it again. We just let it go knowing it is done. So I prepare, well, there's another way of looking at the way we do this creative process is very similar, and it's used a lot, to a seed being planted in the soil and producing the very thing that the seed is. And that's what our prayer is, and that's what the creative process is. So we're going to delve a little deeper today, and I propose that the 4th secret to answered prayer is this. Prayers are answered when we release our attachment to the outcome. Not so easy, but very important. Remember, we release it, and so it is. It is done. And by attachment, and by attachment to the outcome, I specifically mean two things. One, attachment to how the prayer will be answered, and the second thing we're going to talk about is attachment to the outcome. The outcome, what it will be. Like we know the what, yeah? But we have sometimes tendencies to jump to the outcome. And this is what we're going to discuss this morning. But in Science of Mind, Ernest Holmes quotes Matthew in the Bible, chapter 6, verse 6. The secret of prayer, this is according to Matthew, and its power in the outward life depends upon an unconditional faith in and a reliance upon this inner presence. We must enter into the closet. That is, we are to shut out all else and enter the presence of Spirit in quietness and confidence, believing prayer has power, not through repetition, but by the belief and the acceptance. Prayer is to be simple, he says, direct and receiving. We are to receive that God indwells our own life, that the divine presence is sufficient for all needs. We are to believe that God will provide for and bless us abundantly. And when we enter this secret place, we are to leave all else behind. And part of that all else we must leave behind would be our attachment to the how. To the how is this going to get done? We don't need to know that. If you remember, we say it a lot. We come up with the what, and we let the universal energy take care of the how. Because we can't know the how. Things happen. Have you ever done that? I have. Things happen. There's no way I could have planned for those things to take place. And they take place, and step by step, but you got to follow them, step by step, you have manifested sometimes, most of the time, even better than you could have imagined. There are times, however, we cannot possibly see how our prayers can be answered. We don't see any way. But I love the simple affirmation that I have used more than once in my life. God makes a way where there appears to be no way. Like, there's no way that can happen. Oh, yes, there is. We live in a universe of infinite potentiality. Of course there is. There's a myriad of ways that we can let it happen if we get out of the way. It is your job, however, to know the what, which takes us to a wonderful little paradox that I love thinking about. Seemingly opposites or contradictory concepts, that's what a paradox is, and they can work together. It seems like I am speaking right now out of one side of my mouth and then the other side because I'm about to say something a little different. In the last breath, it is our job to know the what. And then a few breaths before that I said the fourth secret to answered prayer is releasing our attachment to the what, as well as the how. So what's up with that? How can that be? That's the paradox. I said you got to know the what, but you have to release it in a certain way. So let's talk about that. Let's explore that a little bit. Releasing your attachment to the what. It's my job to know the what. Holmes is very clear about that, Ernest Holmes. And he writes that conscious consciousness must be conscious of something, right? And in Science of Mind, his book, prayer should be direct and specific. Specific. And then he writes, when we treat, which we call affirmative prayer, spiritual mind treatment, we should be specific. Whatsoever we desire, when we pray, we should believe that we have them. If we wish for money, we should ask for or mentally accept money. If we wish for a home, we should ask for or mentally accept a home. And as we put as much desire into our mental work as we desire. And he also writes, be specific in treating praying. Be direct and definite in your mental work. You are dealing with intelligence, so deal with it intelligently. So I could go on with other quotes, because he's got so many quotes in the Science of Mind book. Everyone should own that. But you get the picture. Holmes is telling us over and over again, it's our job to be clear and specific, direct about what we desire in prayer. And then, I am suggesting that in order that the prayer be fully, wonderfully, marvelously, and fantastically answered, we must let go of any attachment to it. Completely gone, as I said before. Release it, don't think about it again. We have prayed. This can be a bit of a challenge than the idea of just releasing the how. I find that easier, releasing the how, because I just depend upon the universe to give me that direction, that guidance. Even to understand, let alone to do. But just think about it for a moment. You have prayed for something. Someone, you can have an example. We all have examples of things we prayed for. So you have prayed for, let's say, a romantic relationship, whatever it is. It could be anything. Which means you have a great desire for it, or else you wouldn't be praying for it. Every desire has two sides. There's that which you desire, and then there's the lack of it on the other side, if you think of a coin. So you have the desire, and if our mind starts doing its thing that it can sometimes do, you go to the lack of it, which is why we want to let go of the what sometimes. Let it go in the prayer. So when you remain attached to the what of your prayer, you just might have a tendency to begin spending your time in trying to see if the what has appeared or not. Well, this hasn't really happened. Nothing really happened with that prayer. I prayed for that 3 times and there's still nothing going. This is what our minds, as they say, monkey minds, that's what it does. It doesn't stop thinking. And so we start thinking about the absence of that which we desire. So, what has appeared, and trying to see if what has appeared and if it has come yet. And then what do? The fact that your romantic relationship isn't here yet, and of course now, with every thought, it isn't there yet. Because you haven't aligned with it. The frequency is not in alignment when you're thinking it hasn't happened. That's the lack of it. So this is the secret of, 4th secret of prayer. Release it completely. Release it completely. When you are attached to the what, and then worried that it isn't here, you have you have moved yourself out of that place of allowing the prayer to be answered through you. Because now you're up here. You're not allowing it to flow. By giving up your attachment to the outcome, you surrender to the creative intelligence of the cosmic nexus and allow it to unfold before you. Letting go of the attachment to the desire allows the intelligence of the universe to help your intentions manifest themselves. So force, we know, force is a sign of desperation. Whenever we try to force something to happen, that's when you find yourself in that kind of vibration of force, you want to walk away from it, because that's desperation. But also, because when you let go, when you really let go, it hasn't happened, all right, I give up. You ever do that? I give up. Once we give up, man, we've surrendered it. And that's when the universe can do its work, if we listen again. And infinite intelligence has a chance to work, because we've gotten our ego selves right out of it. And I love this example of being detached from what is in the story of a Taoist farmer, which we all know Taoist farmers, right? But this version comes from Joan Borshenko in her wonderful book, A Path to God. So this is the story. Once upon a time, in ancient China, there lived a Taoist farmer who followed the great way to God. He was considered a wealthy man because he owned a horse to help him with the plowing. One early spring morning, his horse ran away. And when the villagers heard about this, they hastened to his home to express their sympathy. What a terrible thing, they lamented. But all the Taoist farmer would say is, maybe. The next morning, the horse returned, leading an entire herd of white wild horses. So the townspeople rushed over and exclaimed at his good, now you're the wealthiest man in the whole province. They all exalted this, and they were just thrilled, and he said, maybe. It's a bunch of nosy villagers, I'll tell you. So the following morning, the farmer's only son woke at dawn, and he began breaking in one of those wild horses when he got thrown from the horse, and his leg was broken. The townspeople rushed over in alarm. What a terrible thing, they wept. Without the help of your son, how can you plant and do all this work that needs to be done? But all the farmers said was, maybe. The next afternoon, busy life here, the emperor's soldiers rode through the town, knocking up enormous clouds of dust and drafting all the young men drafting all the young men around for a war. And because of his broken leg, the son could not go. And all those nosy townspeople came up again. And they said, what incredible good luck. And the farmer said, maybe. And the story continues in the same fashion for many verses, illustrating the important principle of non-attachment. Non-attachment. Just think about living your life without attachment. So this is the way that the father, the farmer, the Taoist farmer lived his life. And he knows that the Tao is harmonious and just, and that all things conspire to bring about our very best good. Incidents that appear either good or bad can never be judged in isolation. Everything is a flow. Everything is a flow until we get ourselves stuck in the middle of it. But everything is a flow. And it can never be judged just by one event. Life truly is a paradox in which all things are relative and interrelated. Everything is entangled. Everything. One can only have the faith in the ultimate working of the Tao, the non-attachment, and actually going with the flow, that beautiful flow. So that gives you an idea of when we release prayer, when we surrender it and let it be, then the universal intelligence can do its job, which is to bring us whatever we desire. And that's true. When we really believe we have it and we let go of asking for it, wait for it, signs of all kinds. Signs appear and we don't always pay attention. That's when we don't listen. Secret number 2. You have to listen. Listen, listen. And so this is to summarize the whole 4 secrets again. Our prayers are answered through us. Our prayers are answered when we listen. And our prayers are answered when we welcome everything. And the 4th one, according to Joyful Gathering Spiritual Center, according to us, we release our attachment to the flow and wait for the answer. Just allowing it to flow in through our lives. So those are our 4 secrets, which aren't really secret. We let it go, we do the prayer, we wait, expectancy, we wait for it to show up in our lives. So may all your prayers, whatever you've been praying for, be answered. And may you remember these 4 secrets and use them. Question yourself, because your thoughts will take over. And boy, do we have a lot of thoughts in one day. And they have lots of answers. So that's not what we want to listen to. We want to listen to our indwelling God. That directs us always into the right direction, expecting the great things and manifesting them. So I declare that each one's manifestations have already taken place, and that or something even greater is what is happening in each one's life. I'm declaring that now, and so it is. And so it is.